approach trying to stay within the 5 minutes, so I'm going to basically read mine. Because I tend to tell very detailed stories, so I had to get it on paper. Narrowing this down, because I feel like there's been so much in my life that has been redeemed, I'm going to go with the biggest one and start when I was pregnant for the first time. We knew we were having a boy, and as many expectant mothers do, I would constantly daydream of what kind of mother I would be, what he would be like. I dreamed of what he would look like, Justin's dark hair, my blue eyes. He would be athletic, maybe a soccer player. He would be an artist or a songwriter. He'd be smart but not arrogant. He'd be kind and love his mother. He would marry a girl who I would be grateful to have join our family, and he would have beautiful and talented children of his own for me to cherish. And I got a few of those things. Colin was born May 29, 2005, my first of 3 sons. And the next day after he was born, we found out that he has a neurological condition called microcephaly. We were told by doctors that due to his severely underdeveloped brain, it was unknown if he would walk, talk, grow, or live. We were assured that he would at least have severe developmental delays, as well as mental and physical handicaps, and would likely never be able to do many things for himself. That huge gap between my dream and the new reality that I was facing was devastating. Justin and I handled this news very differently. I began a long, slow process of grieving, and he pretty much shut down until recently when he started his grieving process. Our relationship began to grow apart almost immediately. I struggled to find my footing, as none of the things of this world that I had ever leaned on could do anything to change this. It was his brain. No amount of money or technology or my own determination could fix my son's brain. And just like that, all of my control was stripped away. Any intelligence or beauty I had, my perfectionism and reputation, it was all irrelevant. Strangers looked at my child with questions in their eyes, making them ask me every time I talked to him for about 5 years what the doctors were saying about when he would catch up, even though my answer was always that he never would. I watched friends' babies learn to sit up, crawl, walk, and talk, while I still cradled my baby who showed no signs of ever attempting those things. He wouldn't eat solid foods and vomited most of what he did eat until he was about 18 months old, when he had a major corrective stomach surgery and had a feeding tube placed. He's also had corrective eye surgery and will likely have another one of those. He had a 2-month bout with almost constant migraine headaches day and night just before he turned 2. And that's when I watched him rip out his own hair from the pain, and I couldn't comfort him. Then last summer he started having seizures. And add to all of that our unstable finances, and the stress has been completely overwhelming. I've cycled through fear, contempt, depression, numbness. It's, it's been the kind of roller coaster that jerks you around and leaves lasting pain. The redemption in my story, though, which is what I'm here to talk about tonight and I'm excited to talk about. I just felt like I had to give that to you so you knew where I was coming from. But it's been through such unexpected joy because of my pain. And I know now that God wasn't out to punish me or teach me a lesson or hurt me. He didn't abandon me or forsake me. And even though in the darker moments I thought all those things were true, instead I realized that He's actually been there the whole time, loving me, guiding me, breaking my heart sometimes, but only so that He could mend it, allowing it to be more full. So now when I experience joy, it's a more pure experience than I could have imagined. My gratefulness comes from a much deeper place. My perspectives and priorities have completely shifted. I'm a more compassionate person, a better mother, wife, teacher, friend, member of the church community than I was before or would have ever been. I'm more comfortable with who I am. I feel much less pressure to be something or someone important by this world's standards. My brokenness has opened me up to share any fruits that I have been given and to lay my treasures at the throne of God. Now I want to share a few specific treasures with you. First, I get to be Colin's mom. I get to be. He's nearly 7, and he's not talking or dressing himself. He's not potty trained. Feeding him is still unpleasant. The day-to-day care of him is tiring, but he's finally learning to walk on his own. Sorry. I'm sorry. This is going to take over 5 minutes. He's making progress on that faster than he's ever made progress on anything ever. Oh my gosh. He practices all the time, and he just grins the whole time. Sometimes he enjoys it so much that he just cracks himself up just walking around the room. And that's just the kind of attitude that he lives his whole life with. How could it not rub off on me? His giggle is infectious, and it's the little things like that about him that easily counteract all the hard stuff. He's the sweetest soul, and I'm so grateful that he's been given to me. I get to hear from parents at Beverly Woods, where he goes to school, that their typical children love Colin and talk about him daily, that Colin has changed their child's life. I get to hear stories about how much the staff there all love him. I also get to see it with my own eyes. When I pick him up early on days that he has therapy, we walk through the halls and pass by students who are genuinely excited to see him, and they all say, "Hey, Colin," as we walk past. He's included in a way that is completely opposite from the way that I feared he would be excluded. One little boy last year invited him to his 10th birthday party with a bunch of boys playing football. And obviously, Colin couldn't play, but all those boys took a break and came over to say hi when we got there. The birthday boy, Jack, asked that instead of gifts, his friends bring donations in Colin's name to the Allegro Foundation, which is a music and movement program for kids with disabilities that they were buddied up for. I'm still stunned by the beauty of that gesture and love that I was so intimately a part of that experience. Then there are my 2 youngest boys. They're as healthy as can be. One's super smart, the other one's super charming. Both developmentally typical. So I get to be a typical mom too. Only I get to do it better than I would have done it without Colin. I truly believe that I would have been like a super high-strung, competitive mom if I wasn't knocked right off my feet with Colin. And I know that I'm still far from being a perfect mom, but I'm grateful for the perspective to be okay with that. I'm also grateful that Justin and I seem to be coming out of the ditch that we'd been in for about 6 years and have started the long road of reconciliation. As we move along this path, I have hope of experiencing real love in my marriage the way God intended me to, after such a long period of lonely distance. It's a true gift to believe that the worst is over. I'm grateful for the understanding I now have of grief and loss. My struggles with Colin will continue to cycle through my life long term, and I've accepted that. It doesn't take away the pain in the moment, but it has given me compassion for others like I've never felt, a need for God's mercy and grace that's not just based on an ideal, but on my personal story, and a yearning for heaven that I'd heard about, but I honestly never understood until now. And finally, I'm grateful that God knows what I need more than I do. I'm grateful that He's a masterful author and that He's writing my story instead of me, because I would never have chosen my specific struggles. I didn't want a child with special needs. I didn't want a difficult marriage. I didn't want to struggle financially. But since it wasn't my choice, I get to be grateful that God holds me when I'm struggling, that he tells me that I'm his and he's with me, and I feel peace in knowing that he chose these specific struggles for me. He knows me at my core and has graciously stripped away the things that I would turn to in this world for fulfillment and comfort and replace them with himself. And to me, that is redemption. I want to close with a quote from the traditional children's story, The Legend of the Three Trees, because I feel like it's entirely relevant to my story and maybe yours too. It says, sometimes the dreams that we have for ourselves are much smaller than the dreams that God has for us. The three trees' dreams came true, just not in the way they imagined. And so it is with each of us, for if we follow God's path, we will travel far beyond even our greatest dreams.